Jeremy Rhyne is an attorney living and working in Orange County, California. When he is not fighting for truth and justice in the courts, he enjoys stand-up paddling, reading, running, traveling, and listening to Patrick O'Brian novels on a loop. He is married with 2 daughters. And we also have Cesar Ruiz, aka Cwiz. Cwiz and Jeremy have been friends for over 30 years and having met in high school. Cesar lives with his wife and 3 kids in Huntington Beach, California, is an entrepreneur and owner of several companies, including a construction company, a real estate brokerage, and most importantly, always most importantly, a taco shop. I agree, that is most important. So let's welcome them to the discussion. If at any point in the night you want to ask a question of either of them, go ahead and pop it up in the chat. I'll be gathering the questions for some Q&A time. But I'm going to kick things off to our featured guest with the basic beginning question of just tell everybody how you met and why the heck your friendship deserves a book.
What do you think, Cesar? You want to take it or you want me to?
Well, I've got laryngitis, so I shouldn't be talking today. I don't know, man. You're the guy. You're the master crafter with the words, man. I'm the jester in the corner.
I'll give it a shot then. We met in health class when I was a sophomore in high school. I think that's the first chapter of the book, and we met because my name is Ryan and his name is Ruiz, so we're sitting right next to each other, and with the seating chart, it was as strangely fortunate as that. And that particular day, Cesar decided that he would play a prank on the health teacher who was starting the class on the very first day of class. And what he did was he smuggled a synthesizer into the classroom, recorded some sounds into it, including the teacher's name. I don't know when he did that. Maybe we can ask him, but he somehow said the teacher's name into the synthesizer and then pushed buttons on the synthesizer so that it said her name. And he did that over and over and over in the class and had the class cracking up until she figured out who it was and kicked him out basically and took his synthesizer. So that literally the very first time I met him, and it was like, okay, I got to figure out what this guy's all about. And that was, I don't know, 33 years ago now. So when did you record her voice? How did you do that?
I'm pretty sure I did it like right when the class started, and she was like, "Hello, everybody. My name is Mrs. Braun," and I'm like, "Mrs. Braun." So I just threw it into the recorder, and then thought that's when the hijinks would begin. So I actually don't even. The funny thing is I don't even, until you told that story and read it, I totally forgotten about it. Much like everything else I forget about in life. I think it was like a last minute decision to get it done. So
yeah, very strange. Why this friendship deserves a book, I guess, is for one simple reason, that for the last 33 years, Cwiz has been doing odd and hilarious things like that, and I've had a front row seat to it, and there were too many stories to just let it go. It was like, it just had to be told. The stories had to be told. They say when you write a book, write the thing that you have to tell, the thing you've got to get off your chest. Well, part of it was me, but part of it was Cesar had been saying for a very long time that he wanted to get these stories written down because he was forgetting them, or we were forgetting them. And basically it was this idea percolating out there that we should hire a video crew or something to record these. And Cesar had this idea where we'd get all the guys together who are parts of these stories, go somewhere for the weekend and have some video crew film us while we told the stories. And he was pretty serious about doing that. But it just never happened. We were talking about it for years. And so just, I've been writing things over the last decade or so. And then I just thought, you know what? This is something I can do. I can write this stuff down and just hand him a book. And so I kept it a surprise for a while. And on my own, just leaving work and going to Starbucks, just writing these stories down. And I think I was able to keep the secret for about a year before I was like, I gotta tell you what I'm doing. And told Caesar about the book. And then it was just like kind of working together on stuff. And then I was able to, I was making a lot of phone calls to people who were parts of these stories to see if my memory was correct. And of course, Jenna, Caesar's wife, and I had a lot of phone calls so she could fill me in on that part of the book about their life and their history. And so what ended up being a secret project became more of a corporate project. And so it was so much fun. I mean, it was like the best, authors talk about the research they have to do to write a book. And they gotta, if it's David Baldacci, he's gonna go to Secret Service or walk around Pennsylvania Avenue and record things. For me, it was this matter of going to lunch with my oldest pals and telling stories. It was like the most fun way to get ready to write a book. It was the best. It was just, I had the best time writing it.
And before, I know you're about to say something, Vinny, I can see it in your facial structure, but when you say that, so a lot of people have asked, because there's another character in the book, and his name is the Captain, and it's Ian. And so people ask, well, how come you didn't write a book about Ian? Well, I'll tell you why, because I just got a text message from him that said, have fun tonight, lads. I've got a cold and I'm heading to bed. Cheers. I mean, come on now. Seriously. I'm gonna write a book about the guy who's got a head cold in August. And like, no, I mean, good man, of course, but let's be honest, man. Your buddy's going to be on a Zoom call with a bunch of people, and he can't even turn on his computer to get on a little bit of a gig with his buddies. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, a lot of people
take a bullet for him, but
well, he's not here to defend himself. So.
Well, then, Jeremy, I want to piggyback on your discussion of this being sort of a corporate book, talking about interviewing your friends and getting the story straight. I'm just curious, what events did you find out that you misremembered or couldn't even come to a consensus with the people you talked about? Because I'm sure everybody had their own take on what happened and how you handled those moments where nobody seemed to agree on what happened.
Yeah, there were a couple stories going back, a lot of these stories take place in the like 91 to 93 period, because we were fresh out of high school and no one was really very serious about college at that point, if at all. And so we were screwing around every night, it seemed like, doing something. And during that period, there were always lots of people around and big groups of people doing things. And so for some of those stories, I remember there's a story in the book about our paintball period where we were going out and shooting each other all the time with paintball guns and pranks related to that. And there was a story there where there were differing recollections between the captain and me and Corey, and as to who was in what car and that sort of thing. But the recollections didn't differ as much as you might think, because I think in part because the stories had been retold so many times. So we'd been telling these stories to people for a long time, and I know I had. And so I kind of, as stories are retold and retold, they sort of get solidified. There were a couple stories. One comes to mind where I wasn't there at all. There was a story where Caesar and the captain were in Africa, and there was a fight with a troop of baboons, and where the captain almost got killed by a troop of baboons. The recollection between Caesar and him was quite different. So Caesar had his view of what happened that day. The captain had his view, and I kind of took an amalgamation of their two stories. And I think I even say, okay, well, Caesar said this and Ian said that. But so yeah, of course, as a lawyer, I know testimony and recollection is notoriously bad. People just filter it through their own, own perceptions of things and the way they see the world, and they have their own memories. But but most of our stories are pretty much nailed down. Would you agree, Caesar, or did I get some chapters wrong?
Sorry, I was actually watching an episode of The West Wing. Hold on, let me get back on that screen. Hold on. Yes, no, I totally agree. Other than the fact that, yes, my recollection was correct in that story. And Ian was absolutely made up, because that is an absolute fact. But that's okay. It's no here nor there. It was a long time ago. The country was at war. Well, it is what it is. But yes, I agree that it was good to hear other people's perspective on some stories that you had told that I was involved in. And I'm like, oh, I don't even remember that, or something that had happened either, randomly, a story that I do remember, but then one little caveat of the story that I did not remember, and then being able to hear it and read it for the first time was great. So I do concur.
I think now would be a good time to actually hear a story from the book, to kind of give our viewers a sense of what to expect in these pages. So I know you've prepared a chapter to read, Jeremy. Why don't you go ahead and share that with us?
Okay, I'll read you one short chapter from the book. This is chapter 22. It's called "You Guys a Couple of Clowns." We were driving down a twisting two-lane road at a steep incline. A cooler and the truck's flatbed strained against a bungee cord as we made seemingly never-ending sharp turns into Yosemite Valley. Every few minutes, skyscraping redwoods would part and reveal a precipitous abyss. If we ran off this road, it was 5,000 straight down to the valley floor. 5,000 feet straight down to the valley floor. The view from Glacier Point, where we were traveling from, is arguably one of the best views in the world. Half Dome looms on one side with El Capitan on the other, and a gloriously deep and rich river valley in the middle. While we were at that point, a half hour before, Cwiz and I had tried to see who could take the more ridiculously dangerous photograph. We first took the usual photographs standing at the guardrail and smiling, but those left us unsatisfied. We wanted a picture that, when you looked at it later, would make your hands sweat. So, one at a time, we climbed over the safety rail and carefully walked to the edge of the cliff. There was one spot where a slim finger of rock jutted out over the abyss, ending with a small pedestal on the end of the rock's finger. The pedestal was perhaps 10 inches wide and hung in midair over thousands of feet of freefall. We debated whether we should risk the shot on the little pedestal, but Cwiz was game, as I knew he would be. He was always willing to gamble big, hoping for a big payoff. It was his nature. Cwiz went first. He scooted out on the pedestal, got his feet under him, and stood up slowly with his knees visibly shaking. His toes hung over the pedestal and his knees were touching as he tried to straighten his spine and smile. I got the shot and told him to hurry back to the other side of the rail before he killed himself. Then it was my turn. I did the same thing as he took the picture, and I tried not to whiz my shorts. Feeling like we had defied death, we hopped into Quiz's truck, giddy at how cool the pictures would look. But in his truck, flying down the side of the mountain into the valley, it occurred to me that Quiz's driving was far more dangerous than our photo shoot. He stomped on the gas and passed the slow drivers in front of us around one blind corner after another. An accident on that road and at that speed undoubtedly would have sent us over the side, and it would have been a full minute before we hit the ground, instantly disintegrating us. Nevertheless, we made it to the valley, managing to stay alive, but royally pissing off every single driver we encountered. We were not long in the valley when we heard the short burst of a police vehicle announcing its presence. Boop! And we saw the flashing lights in the mirrors. Cwiz pulled over into a shallow ditch, crunching gravel and laying the weeds down with his tires. The cop took his time coming to the truck. We looked at each other nervously. It was peaceful and beautiful on the valley floor. "You are an idiot," I said. "Be cool." Cwiz rolled down his window, put his hands at 10 and 2, and we waited. The cop moseyed over, took a long look at the open bed of the truck and said, "You boys know why I pulled you over?" "No, sir," said Cwiz. "We got some calls that a green Ford F-150 truck with 2 guys in it was driving recklessly down the hill from Glacier Point. That you guys?" I don't know, said Cwiz. Sure seems like it's you guys, doesn't it? The cop leered at us through his sunglasses and leaned in for a long look. I looked straight ahead. Cwiz said, I don't know, sir. You guys coming from Glacier Point? Yes, sir. And where are you headed? We're leaving. We're on our way to visit a friend up north, and we just stopped by to see the view. I see. The cop looked around the cab suspiciously, and then he said, you guys been drinking? No, sir. The cop jerked his chin toward the truck bed and said, what's in the cooler? Nothing. You're saying it's empty? No, it's not empty, but we haven't been drinking. So what's in it? Balloons? Balloons? Yes, sir. And what are you doing with balloons in a cooler? We make balloon animals. Like a clown? You guys a couple of clowns? No, we're not clowns, sir. We make balloon animals, and you have to keep the balloons cool or they won't work properly. So we carry the cooler around to keep the balloons cool. Well, what are the balloons for? Cwiz smiled and said, well, the ladies like them. The cop offered a half grin in return. Then you won't mind if I take a look, right? No, sir, be my guest. The cop walked back, reached into the bed, grabbed the cooler. He opened it up and found 3 bags of uninflated, multicolored, perfectly chilly balloons for making balloon animals. He walked back to the cab. Well, that's a first. Drive safely, boys. Listen, if I get another call about a green F-150, things are going to be different. You understand? Yes, sir. Life lesson, learn the majestic art of ballooning because it comes in handy more often than you would think. Was that balloon up the whole time?
Thank you.
No, I just made it while you were reading.
Yes, for those of you who didn't watch the screen in the background, we have performance art happening during the reading, which is the best. So.
Nice. You still got balloons? I can't believe it.
Oh, come on, man. I got kids. I got, we gotta make balloons, bro.
Are they in the fridge or what? You got them in the fridge?
I got a cooler in the back of the truck. 5 O's on my tail, my friend.
Oh man, I didn't put any stories in the book about our days as balloon artists, but there was a maybe a year period in my life, your life, and Ian's life where all of us had these stupid balloons in our coolers or our refrigerators.
Good times, that's for sure.
Well, there's a new book right there. Our year as balloon artists.
Balloon artistry. There was a guy, I don't think I put this in the book, but there was a guy Ian trained me to. Did he train you too, Caesar?
Come on, bro. I'm the one that got the job first, and then I got Ian the job.
Oh, okay. Well, Ian trained
we both went together to this guy's house to get trained how to make balloons. And he was this like totally weird hippie dude in Long Beach. And we were just like, what are we doing here? Like,
well, what I was getting at was Ian told me, he's like, dude, the best balloon artist around is a guy named Nate. They call him Nader the Inflator. He was like, he talked about Nader the Inflator like he was a legend. Anyway.
I have a question, Jeremy. Obviously, hearing about the history of the book and what prompted you to write it, it's definitely a book, a love letter of friendship. And you could have easily just chosen to keep it between you and your friends, but you chose to release this book to a larger audience. How would you talk about why you want the world to read this book and what you're hoping people who didn't share these experiences are going to get out of this book?
Well, like I said, it was, I think I've always felt like I was a storyteller. I've always kind of been that way. And it's like wherever I went, and whether I was at work or whatever, I would tell these stories about things my friends and I did, and it would just always crack people up. And I just wanted these stories to be accessible to as many people as possible, for one. But there was in a real sense, and I mean this sincerely, that I'm really proud of my buddy, like I'm proud of who Caesar's become, and just watching him over the years become the man he is. And I really did feel like his approach to life was something everybody could benefit from, because I know I have. And so the life lesson part of the book was, to kind of, some of it is just goofy, learning the majestic art of ballooning is just a goofy life lesson, but there are other life lessons in there that are really serious, that, the way Caesar approaches life is I think we would all be better off if we all had a little bit more of that in our lives. To be like Cwiz, I think, is to be the kind of person that's not afraid to risk, to be the kind of person that's trying to make other people laugh a lot, and making friends wherever you go, and being generous. And I mean, the world would be a better place if we're all a little bit more like Cwiz. So I think that was part of the motivation too. But to be honest, by far the biggest reason I wanted to write the book was just to give it to Cwiz as a gift. Is like just to hand it to him, and I just knew how important and special it would be to him. And as I say in the book, he is the most generous guy I know. And there was no way to repay him for the generosity he's given me over the years, as just being his buddy and taking me to Vegas and put me in penthouse suites and just showing me a great time after time. It was like, hey, I can do this, and then I can hold this over him the rest of his life. Like, no, we're covered. We're good now. I wrote you a book, so we're good.
That's good motivation. I can hold it over your head, but I did this.
That's right.
Well, Cwiz, I want to flip the table. I want to hear from you talking about if you were to write a book about Jeremy, what are some stories that would have to be in there that he may have conveniently left out of his book?
Well, I haven't read his book yet, so I got to see what that's all about first. But the problem would be is I probably would not be able to write a book because I'm not a very strong speller. And I think I skipped that entire section of punctuation in school. So I don't know, there was definitely a time between 2nd and 12th grade that I wasn't there for, I think, for the punctuation. So it would be difficult for me to write a book in that respect. But yeah, I mean, as far as stories go, there's only one story that I would love to be in there. And I don't think, Jeremy, just give me one of these if you don't want me to tell it. But there is a story that I wanted so badly to be in the book, and it wasn't in there. And I can, if you would permit me to tell it, I will. But I need the clarification from my attorney if it's and the names can be changed to protect the innocent. But
I don't care if you tell the story.
Okay.
But you get, you can take 30 minutes with this story, so take it easy.
No. I'm going to make it real quick. So I'm just going to say this. We have a friend, a mutual friend, that asked us to help move them, me and my buddy Cameron, all their furniture up to San Francisco once. And so they were living up in San Francisco, and they were going to law school there at the time. And they said, "Can you help us move?" We said, "Yes." So one of the guises was that my buddy's wife had said, "If you come up, I'm going to make you those really good cookies that you like so much." I'm like, "Okay, I'm in. I'm a fan of cookies." So we get up there, and some other things end up happening that make the story even better, but we don't have time for it. But bottom line is, get up there, some great cookies. I'm eating cookies and milk. And by the way, this friend is no longer married to this particular woman. So the marriage did not end well. But that being said, she makes cookies for me and Cameron, and we eat the cookies. And that night, she's like, "Hey, tomorrow morning, I'll make you guys waffles." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm good, man. I'll just keep eating the cookies." So the next morning, she makes waffles. And of course, me not being a good house guest, I don't want the waffles. I just want more cookies and milk. So I started eating some more cookies and milk. And so that did not sit well with her. And that day they had to go to work. Cameron and I ended up going to the city and enjoying the city for a little bit. And then we're going to come back, get our bags, and then drive home back to Southern California. So we come back to the house, and I'm telling Cameron, hey, when we get our bags, like I'm gonna take some cookies, right? Because there were still some cookies left. Well, we get there, and there's a pile of cookies on the table, and they're burnt. And I'm like, these aren't the cookies we've been eating the last 2 days. Cameron's like, yeah, they are. I'm like, no. I guarantee you she made burnt cookies, and then she made more cookies to give to us, but she knew that I was going to keep eating the cookies, so she hid the rest of the good cookies and just left out the burnt cookies. And Cameron's like, dude, you're crazy, bro. Like, come on, man. I'm like, no, they're cookie. I'm telling you, I know cookies. So I start rummaging through the house, and Cameron is like, dude, you are insane, bro. Like, you're rifling through their private stuff. I'm like, look, they've got cookies hidden somewhere in this house. So finally, I go to the very back of a back cabinet in the kitchen. There's a pot on top of another pot. I pull the pots out, open the pot, and there are the cookies. And so I'm like, see, Cameron can't believe that she had hid the cookies. And so what I did was I got all the burnt cookies and put them in the pot. And then I got all the good cookies and put them in a bag and took them with us and left a couple of crumbs on the table. And then we left. And of course, she thought that I took all the burnt cookies home. She went back and rummaged for the good cookies and found the burnt ones. She never told Jeremy that she had put the burnt cookies out. And we never told, the friend. She never told her friend.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
well done. Yeah.
We never shared the story until the two separated their own way. So
he was begging me to put that in the book.
And the story's a lot better, but for time I had to cinch it down a little bit. So there's all kinds of other things that are part of the story, but yes. So I was hoping that book I understood why it couldn't be in the book, but I thought it would be it probably would have been the best chapter in the book in my opinion. So
yeah.
Well, we are starting to get some questions pop in, so I'm going to go ahead and ask those. Matt asked for a quiz. He actually wants to know, even though you said you haven't read the story, hypothetically, if you have read the book, do you have a favorite story from the book?
Do I have a favorite story in the book?
Yeah.
Oh, man, there's a lot. Yeah, I would probably say most of the Vegas stories, that's just a place that's my second home. And so anytime that we're on a craps table, any of the stories that have to do with the craps table are absolutely hilarious for me. So that would for sure be one of the top ones. Definitely the baboon story and Ian, almost getting killed by a pack of baboons for stealing some of his stuff. That one for sure is definitely up there. And then let's see, as far as another one of the greats or what I kind of love the most. Let's see, what's another good one? I definitely would say that anything that has to do with the travel stuff, the travel stories, I think for me, it's some of the best. There's a story in there that we had Kevin from The Office. He read a story online for us about once when we were on a crowded subway in Rome. And it was just, I was whizzing my pants laughing so hard when this story was taking place and what we were doing. So those are probably my best ones, the ones I like the most.
Awesome.
No doubt.
Well, and Deborah wants to know if you and all of your friends still get together regularly. Tell us a little. Actually, I'm going to start with another question. Tell us about some of the other characters in this book, just a little bit, that pop up throughout. Because even though Cwiz is obviously the protagonist, the through line protagonist, there is a cast of characters in this book.
Yeah, absolutely.
No doubt. It's not just, really the book is about the whole group of friends that's been, doing things together for 30 years, over 30 years now. So a lot of the stories have revolved around the same people again and again. And obviously the captain's one of them, Amir, Corey, Cameron, Bill, Steve, goes on and on. But all of these guys have been, and we've been tight for that long, and we still are. So yeah, we're still regularly seeing each other, doing things together, which I think is unusual and really special. To have those kind of friendships that are this long. You know, when I meet people, I tell them I'm still really good friends with the same guys from high school. They're always kind of shocked. You know, I don't think that's the typical experience at all. And so, yeah, I mean, when we finish this tonight, Caesar and I are meeting up for dinner with Amir, and I think Cameron's going to. So it's kind of a regular, you know, thing. We all kind of live in the same area, and we just keep seeing each other and doing things together. And I'm always trying to plan. Like annual adventure type trips, and Caesar's always trying to plan annual or quarterly or bi-weekly trips to Vegas. So there's always something going on. So he's got his dice. He's ready to go.
Awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no, sure. Like Jeremy said, like the fact that we get together, like tonight we're going to dinner. Of course, Ian's not because he's got the sniffles, but I mean, you know, other than that, we're all going to try to get together and hang out. So probably say a prayer for Ian and his COVID, but
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to jump to Bill's question here. Casting the characters in the motion picture adaptation of the book. Why don't you cast each other first?
You know, somebody asked me this before, and I think for Caesar, Vince Vaughn makes sense to me. The kind of, yeah, the tall, fast talking, you know, he's got the kind of that wit and fast talk that Vince Vaughn has, and the way he just talks people up. That's what I think of. And I'll just prepare myself for the insult. Go ahead, Caesar.
no, come on, dude.
I know what's coming.
No, dude. I would say a cross between Viola Davis
and
John Goodman.
perfect.
No, I mean, in all honesty, you know, it's funny because I would say, I mean, not so much exactly the way the characters always play, but I mean, there could be a little bit of a Luke Wilson in Jeremy's character, I think. So Luke Wilson, I think, would be a good one. Outside of that, I mean, even
I've got his nose.
That's Owen Wilson. You got Owen Wilson's nose.
Oh, you're right. I was picturing Owen Wilson.
Right. No, but I would say, you know, I would say like a Luke Wilson, because Jeremy doesn't play, like, I definitely would say, people could say I'm a character, right? Like you know, I'm smoking mirrors and I'm here and I'm there, but like, you know, Jeremy's got that kind of like, look, man, I'm even keeled. I'm going in this direction. Like, I'm going to poke the bear every now and then to get it to go in the direction. You know, when we were younger, we used to always say that, you know, that like, you know, Jeremy would come up with these crazy ideas sometimes, and then he would just poke the bear and try to get me to like move in that direction. And I'd be like, what? You know, and go that way. So there's a lot of that. So there's an intellect to him that his character would have to. So we would either be a Luke Wilson or was it Javier Bardem in Old No Country for Old Men?
I just get the bowl.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, friendo. Yeah.
So
Ian would be, the captain would be Colin Farrell.
He looks a lot like Colin Farrell. Absolutely.
Well, they have the same last name, right? So the Scottishness.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
He would definitely be like a Colin Farrell. And
who would play Bill?
Who would play Bill? Ooh, that's a good question.
He's giving you a look. He's giving you the side look so you can figure it out.
Question, man.
There you go.
I'd have to have a good. Let's see, who would play Bill? What do you think? Bill.
Nothing's coming to mind.
Yeah, he's a
Tom Hanks. Oh, yeah, Tom Hanks.
Oh, the old workhorse. That's right. He would be a good Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
But kind of a Tom Hanks from like Bosom Buddies. Okay.
Right.
No, he would be a Tom Hanks from like The Burbs or something like that. So,
Bill says Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Oh yes, there's that too. Wait, did he say Kevin Hart? Who? So.
Deborah posted a good question. Jeremy, I know you answered this in the book. So I'm actually not gonna let you answer this question
Okay.
because I want people to read the book and find out your true first impressions of Cwiz, and but we don't hear the other side of the story of the day you met. Cwiz, I want to know your first impressions of Jeremy and what you thought of him and what made you want to be his friend.
Yes. You know, that's a great question. That's a really good question. I would say so.
He's like, I've been trying to figure that out for 33 years.
I think we met. I think we were freshmen in college when I first started getting to know Jeremy. No, we had. I remember he was sitting in front of me in class. I can remember that. And the one thing I actually do remember, and this was kind of probably looking back, because when you said what was your first impression, I literally this just came back to me. And I have no idea why I did this. And I think personally that it could come across as very creepy, like then and now. But I remember, probably one of the first days of school, he had, and I don't even remember where this came from, but he used to always say, "It's Freedom Rock, man."
That's right. Yeah. It was a commercial. It was an infomercial that was on back then, selling CDs of Freedom Rock. Yeah.
Right. So it was like some guy be like, "Freedom Rock, man," or something like that. And so I want to say,
that's funny.
Like maybe around so we started school in September, and sometime after that, maybe for Christmas, I showed up to school with a t-shirt that I had made that said "Freedom Rock, man." And then I gave it to him, like I wrapped it in one of those boxes, like those, you used to get at the department stores, little cardboard boxes that you'd kind of super flimsy. And I put it in the box and like put a ribbon around it. But I'm like, who in the hell gives another kid in class a gift for Christmas? Like that just doesn't happen at all. And so now looking back, and I'm like, I can only imagine what he was thinking, like, this dude just handed me a Christmas present in health class, like. So I just remember that memory now, and I, like I said, literally forgotten about it until that. I don't know if you remember that at all, Jeremy, but that to me was like the weirdest thing. Who does something?
Yeah, I don't remember the T-shirt. I do remember being obsessed with the Freedom Rock commercials.
Yeah,
because I thought they were so stupid and hilarious. I used to imitate those guys. But no, I don't remember. I remember you making your own T-shirts.
Yeah, I used to make a lot of T-shirts myself. Absolutely.
Yeah, he used to just write Cwiz on a blank, V-neck white T-shirt. You get a pack of 10 of them. He'd get puffy paints. He'd write Cwiz, and then he would like rip the sleeves off and walk around sleeveless. And then on the back it would say like, "It ain't easy being cheesy" or something like that. He would just rank self-promotion.
A lot of self-promotion at the time. Absolutely. So.
And there's actually a picture of one of those shirts in the book. So
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
With David Letterman. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's in there. Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff.
So you actually have a few celebrity stories in the book as well, meeting celebrities, and I was kind of behind the scenes when we were figuring out how to promote the book. Jeremy sent me a link to all of the pictures of Cwiz with celebrities. And it could be a book in and of itself, but the rights would be a nightmare. So we couldn't figure out how to put them in the book.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious of the celebrity stories in the book, which one stands out to you as your favorite? And was there any celebrity stories that you wish you had made it into the book?
That's a good. So there's definitely a lot of celebrity stories, mostly because I would figure out a way. So for example, we went, long story, but one way or the other, we were on the red carpet and we would do like interviews for K-Rock, for a radio station. And so, and the only job we had was another buddy of ours who's kind of crazy. And we would just go and interview celebrities on the red carpet. But then once it was all audio, and once the interview was done, we would end up going home. But I was like, we're on the red carpet. So I would figure out a way to sneak into the movie that we were supposed to be going to, sometimes not having tickets to go or whatever. And so I remember one time I was at the movie premiere of Blow, and I had snuck in, and a couple of us had snuck in, and the only seats that were open were right in the middle. next to Penelope Cruz, which was the star of the show. And then Johnny Depp was right behind me. And so like I had the best seats in the house of the premiere with the stars of the movie. And so that was, that was phenomenal in itself. And then after the fact, we had kind of started talking and hang out with Sherry O'Terry from Saturday Night Live. And so basically the whole thing was, how do we get into the after party? And she was going to the after party. So she told us where the after party was. And so what I had done, and I had already kind of known that I was going to have to figure out how to sneak my way in. So I had gotten a massive roll of $1 bills, probably like $50 of $1 bills. And then I wrapped a $20 bill on top of it. So we go to the party, and there was like these big bouncers that there's no way they're letting you in. And so I go to the party, and the bouncer's like, no, you can't get in. So then I go around the back of the party, and there's like another security guy like towards the back entrance. And I just hand him the wad of what he thinks is like $50, $20 bills, but it's just a 20. And I put it in his hand. I'm like, hey bro, we're going in. And he looks at it, and he just opens the door, and we walk in. Of course, he has no idea that it's just a bunch of $1 bills, in the roll. And we get to the party, and it's like anybody and everybody, a who's who of, famous people are there at the Blow premiere. And then we did it again another time with Bill. That time we kind of were semi-invited into the after party. And then we just sat there the whole time, just taking pictures with celebrities the whole night. Just, hey man, we're getting finished together, just silly stuff like that all the time, doing really crazy stuff. So
Speaking of Bill and movies, Bill told me a story just a few months ago at Caesar's house that I'd never heard. And I wish to God I had known and put in the book. And the story is this, and I may get it a little wrong, but quickly, Caesar, Bill may have to fill some of this in, but Caesar, Bill, and one other guy went to the movies one day in a matinee in the afternoon. And Caesar had just met the third guy. He knows Bill really well. The third guy he had just met, barely knew him. They go into the movies, they walk in, there's no one there, right? So they have the whole theater to themselves. They sit down, and then Bill and the other guy go get some popcorn, food or something. So they're gone. So Caesar's sitting in the theater by himself, literally not another soul in a 300-seat theater. So what, you don't leave Caesar alone. These guys should know that. So what he does, he walks up, goes on the stage where the movie is, goes behind the curtains where the movie will be projected, and takes all of his clothes off, gets completely naked. Then Bill and the guy come back, and they sit down like, where's Caesar? Where is he? And then he starts snickering. And Bill, tell me if I get it wrong, but he starts making noises from behind the curtain. And they're like, what is that? What is that? And he just comes out naked and runs across the stage back and forth. And this guy had just met him. I mean, didn't even know what his story was. And that's what going to the movies is like with Caesar. And I can tell you, when my wife, Bree, had first met him, we'd go to the movies occasionally. She would get anxiety when we went to the movies, because whenever we would walk into a crowded movie theater and sit down, she just knew he would do something. He would cause some spectacle of some kind. He would make noise. He would throw popcorn. He would just cause some kind of scene at the theater. So she was always like, oh God, we're going with Caesar. And it was like, I need to sit. It was always like a, what's he going to do kind of moment. And so, but I wish I'd put that story of him getting, because I did have other naked stories, but that one didn't make it because I didn't know about it.
For every one story there is in the book, there's 4 parallel stories, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The most surprised guy, though, was the 4th guy that entered all by himself to watch a matinee by himself. And the first thing he saw was a naked guy run across the street, which
Right.
even Caesar, I think, was a little startled by that.
That's right.
There's been some good movie theater. There's been some good movie theater stories that are out there. One of my favorite that I don't think was in the book either. We had gone to the premiere night of Lord of the Rings. And there's a theater called Big Newport, and it's like the massive screen with like 900 seats in the theater. And it was the opening night, and there was a costume party. And so there was like 25 people on stage dressed as Lord of the Ring characters. There was Gandalf, and then there was elves, and there was just, you know, a bunch of crazies, right? Unless you're a crazy like elf person and dress up like cosplay, I'm sorry, but it was just a little ridiculous. So, you know, there's a kind of a thing where they're kind of rating who's got the best costume. So I go up there, I take my shirt off, and I'm just standing up there with like 25 Lord of the Ring people, and I've got no shirt on, and there's a guy now like putting his hand above people's head, like, and when he does this, everyone cheers. So I ended up getting second place in the costume department, which is great. But as we're walking back, there's like a little elf guy, and I'm like, hey, why don't you get on my shoulders and I'll like carry you back? So he jumps on my shoulders, and I start walking up the stairs, and everybody's kind of going crazy. And I'm looking for the perfect mark. And I'm looking, and I see a guy, a big old dude, and he's got a big old tub of popcorn on his lap. And so as I'm walking up the stairs, I see him, and I pretend to trip. And then I trip, and I just drop the elf into the guy's popcorn. So this little elfin guy basically just gets dropped on this big dude's lap. Popcorn goes flying everywhere. The elf, his ears are like in the dude's popcorn. And of course, I have to leave because now I'm whizzing my pants because I'm laughing so hard. But of course, I acted like I tripped into the man, and it's definitely one of my best times in the movie theater.
You could have done a whole section of the book on movie theater stories.
That is true. Yeah, there's a few fights and a few altercations, I guess we could say. So
yeah,
adding that. Posting a link for everyone to be able to. Shame on me, I haven't been posting links to buy the book throughout the evening. Posting a link to the bookshop.org link to that, which will allow you to actually find the book at your local independent bookstore. So that's a great way for those of you who are interested in, and you know, I have to say this was, so my job at Circuit Breaker, part of it is reading submissions that come in and, you know, deciding what books we want to say yes to and what we want to say no to. And I thoroughly enjoyed reading it because it brought me back to my days and my teenage days. And even though this wasn't stories about my friends, you know, I found myself reminiscing about friends from an age that I haven't seen in forever, and actually I also have a lifelong friend since we were about 14 or 15, and immediately maybe want to call him and start writing art stories down. But we are winding down, but I think, and I know you only prepared one reading for tonight, Jeremy, but I kind of think it would be fun to close with a second reading from the book, a short one. And I'm wondering if you would mind reading Tizing Flipper. That's a nice short one, I think. From the book, and it was one that almost made it onto the cover, but we went a different direction with the cover. And I'm gonna ask everyone you're gonna have to read the book to figure out which story became the cover story, but this one almost became the cover.
That's right. Sure, I can read that. So chapter 27, Baptizing Flipper. Our church liked to baptize people, which makes sense because it was a Baptist church. The baptizee, wearing a special white robe for the occasion, crosses their arms over their chest. The pastor puts one hand on their back and one hand on their crossed hands in front and dunks them. The penitent goes completely under, comes up clean as a whistle, usually snorting water from their nose and ready to live their new life. In order to watch this experience while you're sitting in church, you need a pool, or a large jacuzzi at least, actually installed in the sanctuary. So when a Baptist church is being constructed from the ground up, you have to hire a pool contractor because Baptists are into full immersion. None of this measly sprinkling about the head. They go full dunk tank. Our church's dunk tank, or jacuzzi, was in the back of the center of the church stage in the main sanctuary. The pool could not be seen from the seats. It was there, but it was concealed behind the back wall. When someone was being baptized, you could see them only from about mid-waist up as they stood in the elevated jacuzzi at the back of the stage. On baptism days, which were usually once a month for new members, there was a special time in the service when the pastor would suddenly appear in a robe behind the back wall. A microphone from the ceiling picked up the sound of the water sloshing around in the unseen pool as the pastor moved around. After a few words, the baptizee would wade into the pool and the dunking would occur. But on non-baptism days, the jacuzzi would be drained and you could get inside. If you did, you could poke your head up and look at the congregation while they looked directly at you behind the pastor's lectern. One day, during a Sunday morning service on a non-baptism day, the congregation sat and listened attentively to our pastor as he delivered opening remarks and announcements. I turned to the captain, "Where's Cwizzy?" He shrugged, "He was here a second ago." And when we turned to look around, we heard some snickering from the front rows where the high school students sat. When I looked up to see what was going on, I saw a pointy blue thing sticking up from behind our pastor. Something was in the baptismal. A snout of some kind slowly and sneakily poked up behind the pastor as he talked. The pastor continued with his announcements, unaware of what was going on. The snout rose higher, and then an entire dolphin head could be seen. Cwiz had, for some reason, found a rubber dolphin mask that you could wear on the top of your head. The rubber dolphin head covered his hair, leaving his face visible, and the bottlenose stuck straight up on top like a cone head. While kneeling down in the jacuzzi, Cwiz bobbed up and down so the congregation could see only what appeared to be a dolphin playing around in the baptismal, perhaps hoping to be fed. An eek, eek, eek sound could be heard as Cwiz did his best impression of Flipper. When the laughter grew too loud, the pastor turned around to see what was going on. He said, "Oh my, is that a dolphin?" More laughing. The pastor said, "My money's on Caesar," and then he made some lame joke like, "What is the porpoise of that?" That drew a few scattered laughs and some groans. There was a purpose, though. Cwiz wanted to make his buddies laugh, and he succeeded. We were dying. Life lesson, for God's sake, keep your faith fun.
Thank you. Well, Jeremy, real quickly, why don't you let people know before we kind of release everybody to go get their late dinners, where they can find you and where they can find out about maybe future projects you're working on.
Probably the easiest thing is jeremyrhyne.com. The website has links to the book, but it also has links to a blog that I've been writing. I was writing the blog just mostly about paddle stories, stand-up paddle stories and adventures. But I started to put some deleted chapters from the Cwiz book on there and some other stuff too. So that's the best way. I'm on Instagram too, and if you put in my name, you'll find me.
Excellent, awesome. And Cwiz, any final remarks you want to get in?
I mean,
I'm giving you the last word. That seems like a dangerous thing.
All right. Oh, sorry. I was just.
That was profound. That was truly profound.
I have nothing to say, Vinny. I'm perplexed. I'm giddy as a little girl. Yeah, no. Buy the book. I'm assuming you guys have all bought it, but buy the book. It's great. I think it's the most amazing thing that's happened to me in the last week and a half. It's very cool, and I'm flattered. I'm honored by the book. I cannot believe that it is out there, and I just hope that it takes off. I mean, it's had some people buying it. It's had some success, but I really want this to be a really cool success story in the literary world for Jeremy. I know it's just a matter of time before we get it into the Library of Congress, unless it's already there. Is it there?
It's already there.
So yeah, no. My hope is that everybody who's read it, everybody's here tonight, please tell your friends and buy the book. I mean, it's good. So that's our hope. So
Thanks, buddy.
Well, thank you guys, and thanks everybody for joining us. That wraps it up.